Welcome, everyone, to Ways to Arise, Emerging from Difficult Times. As I wrote in the subject line of the email many of you opened to get to this video, if life has been hard, then you need to be here. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Ways to Arise, Emerging from Difficult Times. This is the series of teachings that I'm going to be offering this week. This is a 3-video series that I'll be sharing with you over the course of the next 3 days. It was actually filmed in 2021, but if anything, I think the message and the practices I share here are more relevant now than they were when I first filmed. Full disclosure, at the end of the series, I'll be inviting you to join me for the next round of Spinning Gold, the one of its kind and only of its kind foundational course in the sacred arts. And even fuller disclosure, while I absolutely do think you should join me for Spinning Gold, if you haven't already, if you can't or you're not ready to, that is totally fine. I still encourage you to take in these teachings and start putting them into practice because I know they can make such a significant difference for you in your life. So get what you can out of it and no strings attached. Now, what is Ways to Arise and why did I create it? First of all, I realized that one of the biggest challenges that I've been hearing about from my students, my clients, and even my colleagues is a yearning to go back to things the way they were before we all experienced COVID and had the realization that in a way, there is no going back to before. There is a lot of anger, a lot of grief, a lot of resentment, a lot of fear, and a lot of sadness that so many of us have not fully come to terms with. And even if you have come to terms with those feelings, I know, and you know, that there are people around you who haven't, and you have to deal with them on a regular basis. We feel very divided against one another, but we know that whenever we are divided from one another, we are also divided from ourselves. It feels like we cannot agree on even the most basic ideas and truths. And social media, which for better and worse, is the way many of us connect to one another, seems to often exacerbate those divisions. When the pandemic started, I wrote and I said in interviews and in podcasts that one of the things I noticed about my community, about the sacred arts community, was that we actually went into the pandemic in a pretty healthy way. And the reason why is that I believe most everyone in this community is not afraid of looking at hard stuff. We're not afraid of looking at things that make us uncomfortable, not afraid of asking hard questions, and not afraid of changing our behavior if we can see that such changes will bring benefit. We are, in a way, collectively on board with underworld excavation projects. So while we were all affected by COVID, it didn't affect us in the sense of launching us into some kind of existential crisis, because most of us are pretty existential to begin with. This worked to our advantage, but it also created a big question for everyone, which is, how do we return? What do we return to? Can we even return? The awesome news is that this is not a new question. As it turns out, while much ink has been spilled on the setting out of great journeys and the navigating of big challenges and the facing of desperate monsters, not much has been said about what it takes, what is required to return, to ascend, to emerge from pain and fear and trauma. Well, not that much has been written about it in the modern era. It turns out the ancients were way more savvy to the fact that for whatever reasons, Humans are much better at finding their way into trouble than they are finding their way out of it. We have plenty of old stories that detail not only the descent into shadow, but the emergence back into society and the world here and now. That's what this teaching series is all about. If life has been hard and you are trying to find ways to make it less hard, then this is where you need to be. And these teachings are what you need to hear. Ways to Arise, Emerging from Difficult Times, gives you a taste of the teaching method that I employ in all of my year-long courses, beginning with my foundational course, Spinning Gold. We begin with a guiding story. In this case, we are going to work with my original retelling of the Hem to Demeter. This is the core Persephone myth, detailing the maiden's abduction, her mother Demeter's search for her, and her subsequent emergence from the underworld. That story will be in the next email that you receive. Following that, you will receive a video a day for the next 3 days. The first 2 videos will be teachings, practices, and prompts that the story points us to. Their theme being how to arise, how we emerge from hard times. The final video will be your official invite to join me for Spinning Gold. And I'll tell you a bit about the course and what we have in store for you. My hope is that these teachings are a balm for you, wherever you are in life, but especially if things have been extra hard of late. My belief is that the story and the teachings that naturally emerge from the story will give you the strength and ability to be both blessed and a blessing in turn. May it be so for you, may it be so for me, and may it be so for all of us.